Welcome to my story. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe, and your support means the world.
The call came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing fabric samples for a hotel project in Kigali. My phone flashed an unknown number from Nyamirambo district. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Hello, is this Miss Salma Abiola?" the man asked politely. "Yes, speaking. Congratulations on finalizing the sale of your property. The new owner has completed payment and moved in this morning." I froze. "I'm sorry, what sale?" "The house in Lake Kivu Hills, Karangi. Everything is processed. Transfer is complete." My heart started pounding so loudly I could barely hear him. There must be a mistake. I never listed that house. I would never sell it. There was a short silence on the line. "Miss Salma, the documents are signed and registered. It shows as transferred 3 days ago." As soon as the call ended, my hands were shaking. I opened my laptop and logged into the property registry website. I typed in the title number I knew by heart. Status, transferred. Status, sold. Status, completed. Felt like the air left the room. The house was no longer under my name. The buyer had already moved in. I stared at the screen, hoping it would change. Hoping it was a glitch. But it wasn't. That house wasn't just property. It was my grandmother Mama Zawadi Abiola's home. The place where she raced me after school every day. The balcony where she told me, "This house will always protect you." She left it to me. Only me. So how was it gone? And who signed my name? That house in Lake Kivu Hills was never just bricks and paint to me. It was my childhood. It was the smell of fresh mandatsi in the mornings and the sound of Lake Kivu waves hitting the rocks at night. It was the soft yellow walls grandma refused to repaint because she said sunshine should live inside the house too. Mama Zawadi raced me there more than my own parents did. After school, I would run up the small stone path and she would already be waiting on the balcony, smiling like I was the best thing that ever happened to her. She used to say, "Salma, this house has strong roots. And so do you. Every corner holds a memory." The mango tree where I studied for exams. The kitchen where she taught me how to cook. The living room where she prayed for my future. When she passed away, it felt like the house was the only place where I could still feel her presence. But not everyone felt the same. My sister Nadine never hid her resentment. The day the will was read and the house was left to me, I saw something change in her eyes. She smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Later that night she said quietly, "You were always Grandma's favorite." I tried to laugh it off. I told her it wasn't about favorites. But she didn't let it go. One evening during an argument she looked at me and said coldly, "One day that house won't be yours." Back then I thought it was just jealousy talking. Just hurt feelings. Now thinking about the transfer papers, I realized something terrifying. That wasn't jealousy. That was a promise. I didn't call Nadine. I didn't text her. I drove straight to Gasabo Heights estate that same evening. My heart was beating so fast I could barely focus on the road. I kept hoping there was some big misunderstanding. Maybe someone tricked her. Maybe she didn't know. She opened the door wearing silk pajamas like it was just a normal day. "Salma? What are you doing here?" I didn't waste time. "Why is Grandma's house marked as sold?" For a second her face went blank. Then she forced a small laugh. "What are you talking about? Sold? That's impossible." I stepped inside without waiting. The property registry shows it's transferred. 3 days ago. "Don't lie to me." Her expression changed. The fake confusion disappeared. She crossed her arms and leaned against the wall. "You live in Kigali," she said calmly. "You barely visit Karangi anymore. You didn't need that house." I felt like she slapped me. "So you sold it?" My voice was shaking. "I sold it for the family," she replied coldly. "Do you know how much it was worth? We deserve that money too." "We?" I whispered. "The funds are already distributed," she continued. "It's done." "Distributed where?" I asked. She mentioned accounts I didn't recognize. None of them were mine. That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was planned. I looked at my parents who were sitting quietly on the couch. My mother avoided my eyes. My father stared at the floor. Not one of them defended me. The silence hurt more than Nadine's words. I felt my hands shaking, but something inside me became very clear. They thought I would cry. They thought I would accept it. They were wrong. I walked out of that house hurt, but no longer confused. Now I knew the truth, and I was ready to fight. 2 days later, I was sitting inside a quiet law office in Bol Medhanilum, Addis Ababa. I didn't want a small local lawyer. I wanted someone who understood regional property law. Someone serious. That's how I found Otto Bekele. He was calm, older, very observant. The kind of man who speaks less but sees everything. I placed all the printed documents in front of him. The transfer certificate, the sale agreement, the digital registry confirmation. My sister sold my grandmother's house without my permission, I said. I need to know if there's anything I can do. He didn't answer immediately. He adjusted his glasses and started reading carefully, page by page, line by line. The room became so quiet I could hear the ticking clock on the wall. My stomach was tight. I was preparing myself to hear something painful like, "It's complicated," or worse, "There's nothing you can do." Dad, he stopped. He stared at one page for a long time. Then he looked up at me slowly. "Miss Abiola," he said calmly, "your sister made the biggest legal mistake of her life." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He turned the document toward me and pointed at the signature. "This is not your signature. And whoever tried to copy it did a very poor job." My heart skipped. He continued. "The digital timestamp shows the document was uploaded from a private IP address linked to her residence. The biometric verification is missing. This is not just an unauthorized sale." He paused. "This is documented fraud." The word hit differently. "Fraud. Is it civil?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "No. This becomes criminal." Something shifted inside me in that moment. I walked into that office feeling like a victim. I walked out thinking like a strategist. Now it wasn't about loss. It was about consequences. A week later I was back in Otto Bekele's office. This time he had a copy of my grandmother's original will in front of him. I had read it before but only through tears, not with legal eyes. He flipped to the last page and tapped his pen on one paragraph. "Did you notice this clause before?" he asked. I leaned forward and read it slowly. My grandmother had added a protective condition. It clearly said that if the property was ever sold without the written consent of the named beneficiary, me, the person responsible would be liable to pay triple the market value as compensation. I looked up at him confused. "Triple?" He nodded. "The house was sold for $1.1 million. That means legal exposure is over $3 million, plus damages and legal fees." For a moment I couldn't even speak. My grandmother knew. Somehow she knew there might be problems one day. And she protected me in advance. "Does my sister know about this?" I asked quietly. Otto Bekele gave a small smile. "Based on her filings? No. She only submitted the transfer page. Not the full will. That meant Nadine thought she had one. He probably thought the money was safe. Spent. Secured." I sat back in my chair and felt something powerful settle inside me. I didn't call Nadine. I didn't warn her. I didn't argue. For the first time I stayed completely silent. Let her celebrate. Let her feel untouchable. Let her think the story was over. Because what she didn't know was that Grandma had already written the ending. 2 weeks later, Nadine hosted the most expensive engagement party I had ever seen in the Marina district of Dar es Salaam. The venue overlooked the ocean, decorated with white roses, gold chairs and crystal lights hanging from the ceiling. Everything screamed money. New money. She walked around in a sparkling designer dress, smiling for photos, holding her fiancé's hand like she had just conquered the world. I stayed near the back, quiet, unnoticed. I wasn't invited personally. I came as someone's plus one. I didn't want drama. I wanted timing. During her speech she raised a glass and laughed loudly. "To new beginnings. To success. And to securing our future." The crowd cheered. Then she added proudly, "The wedding venue is fully paid. No debts. No stress. Everything handled." I almost smiled. Because at that exact moment, a man in a dark suit walked into the hall. He spoke briefly to one of the staff, then moved directly toward Nadine. He handed her an envelope. At first she looked confused. Then she opened it. I watched her face carefully. The smile disappeared. Her hands started shaking slightly. Her fiancé leaned closer, whispering, "What is it?" She didn't answer. The color drained from her face as she read the words. "Official court summons." Guests nearby noticed. The music kept playing but the energy shifted. Whispers started spreading from table to table. "What happened? Is everything okay? Why does she look like that?" For the first time that night Nadine looked small. I stood near the balcony, calm, holding a glass of water. I didn't clap. I didn't react. I didn't say a word. Power doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes, it just waits for the perfect moment. The courtroom at the High Court of Arusha was colder than I expected. Not just the air, the atmosphere. Everything felt serious, heavy, final. Nadine sat across from me, dressed in a simple suit, no designer sparkle this time. She didn't look at me. Her confidence from the engagement party was gone. When the hearing began, Otto Bekele stood up calmly. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't act dramatic. He simply presented facts. First, the original will was shown in full, including the protective clause. Then came the sale documents. Then the signature comparison. A handwriting expert explained clearly, the beneficiary's signature does not match verified records. You could feel the shift in the room. Next, the digital forensic report was displayed on a large screen. The timestamps showed the documents were uploaded from an IP address registered to Nadine's residence. Biometric verification was missing. The authorization code had been manually bypassed. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was manipulation. Then the buyer testified. He looked uncomfortable. I was told the sister had agreed to sell. I had no reason to doubt it. I paid in full. The judge listened carefully, flipping through pages. After a long silence, he spoke firmly. Pending criminal investigation, all accounts connected to this transaction are to be frozen immediately. You could actually hear Nadine gasp. Her lawyer leaned toward her quickly. She started shaking her head, whispering, No. Outside the courtroom, reporters were already waiting. By evening, headlines were everywhere. Sister sells inherited property illegally. Nadine broke down in tears before reaching her car. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I simply walked past the cameras quietly. Because real power doesn't shout. It stands and lets the truth speak. The consequences didn't come all at once. They came slowly, like doors closing one by one. First, the wedding was postponed. That's what Nadine posted online. A week later, the engagement photos were deleted. Then her fiancé quietly released a short statement saying he needed space and clarity. Everyone understood what that meant. He was gone. The same friends who filled her engagement party stopped commenting on her pictures. Invitations stopped. Calls slowed down. The luxury dinners disappeared. When the money froze, so did the loyalty around her. But then my parents came to me. They visited my apartment in Kigali one evening, sitting stiffly on my couch like strangers. Salma, my mother started softly, she's still your sister. My father added, family problems should stay inside the family. Drop the charges. She has suffered enough. I listened quietly. Then I said something simple. She didn't ask me before selling my memories. The room went silent. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about embarrassment. It was about accountability. If I stayed quiet, it would mean what she did was acceptable. Weeks later, the final court decision came. The judge ordered full financial restitution under the will's protective clause, plus additional damages and legal costs. Total owed $3.2 million. When the number was read out loud, Nadine covered her face with her hands. I didn't feel happy. I felt steady. Because sometimes consequences aren't cruel. They're just earned. After the court decision, I contacted the man who had bought the house. He was hesitant at first. The case had brought him stress and unwanted attention. I told him I didn't blame him. He had been misled too. I made him a fair offer, higher than what he originally paid. It wasn't about profit anymore. It was about bringing my grandmother's home back where it belonged. A month later, I was standing again at the gate in Lake Kivu Hills. The paint was slightly different. The garden had changed. But when I stepped onto the balcony and saw the lake shining under the sun, I felt it. Home. But I knew something important. I didn't want the house to sit quietly as just a memory. Grandma Zawadi believed in building strong women. She believed in independence, in creativity, in purpose. So I decided to transform it. After months of renovation, design planning, and careful work, the house reopened with a new name, Zawadi Women's Creative Retreat Center. It became a space for young African women architects, designers, and artists to learn, rest, and build their dreams. Workshops filled the old living room. The mango tree became a brainstorming spot. The balcony became a place for mentorship talks at sunset. The same house that almost broke my heart was now building futures. Media outlets started calling me something I never expected. The granddaughter who fought back. But when I stand on that balcony and look at Lake Kivu, I don't feel like someone who fought. I feel like someone who protected what mattered. And turned pain into purpose. A few months later, Nadine asked to meet me. Alone. No cameras. No witnesses. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her eyes were red. Her voice barely above a whisper. Salma. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I studied her for a long moment. The sister who once laughed at my loss, the sister who thought she could take what was mine, now stood broken before me. I shook my head gently and said, "You sold a house. I protected a legacy." She nodded, understanding more in that moment than words could say. Later, I stood on the balcony of Lake Kivu, the water glowing gold under the sunset. The breeze carried memories of my grandmother, her laughter, her wisdom. I whispered to myself almost like she was there. She thought she stole my inheritance. What she really gave me was my power.